Welcome back to TSO Daily Dose. We're so glad that you've come to join us once more to hear what we're doing at the TSO during these tough times. Please tell us what you think and connect with us on Facebook with the hashtag TSO Daily Dose, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get all the notifications. Welcome back to TSO Daily Dose. Today I'm sitting down with TSO Concertmaster Emma McGrath, and we're going to have a chat about the audition process. So Emma, let's talk about the audition process, and let's have a bit of a background at sort of how it works and why we have to do it.
Well, it's interesting you should ask because, in my opinion, it's an imperfect process because the audition situation is quite different from what we actually do on stage. But it's a necessary evil for everyone to be able to hear a candidate playing on their own to decide whether or not they want to invite them for a probationary period in the orchestra and see what they can do on the stage with everybody else.
It's a bit of an odd thing to have someone who is an orchestral musician have to perform solo to get a job to sit as within a group where that should become homogenous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're playing on our own in an audition. Not only are we playing some solos, but we're also playing orchestral excerpts on our own, and it's only part of a piece. So the whole thing is taken out of context, and it's really a microscope on these little excerpts and this tiny amount of playing that we're doing on our own.
Yeah. So for a bass trombonist, most of my excerpts are with the trombone section or tutti with the whole orchestra. But because you're a violinist, you have a whole lot more soloists and you're a concertmaster. So the excerpts that we're going to hear today from the Grieg, is this a solo excerpt or is it part of the tutti violin section?
This excerpt, Anitra's dance from Peer Gynt, is actually just a first violin excerpt that all of the first violins will play together.
Okay. And tell me, why do they put this on?
So every excerpt has a reason behind it as to why it's on a list.
Yep.
Usually it's a specific technical aspect, a musical aspect, a stylistic aspect. Oftentimes it's all three of those things and more.
Yeah.
In particular, this excerpt is very delicate. It's sort of got a folky kind of lilt to it. It's melancholic, it's muted. The intonation in the high register is extremely tricky. It has to sound effortless and elegant, whilst slightly morose, but kind of dancey. There's some tricky little trills in there, and there's some off-the-string stuff, which has tricky string crossings.
What's off the string?
Yes, off the string, it's a stroke generally called spiccato, which means that the bow bounces on the string. And this is something that's very hard to do under pressure, in time, with everybody else, and still sound lovely.
So it's a real test of your technical control and how you can use that technical control to make a real musical outcome.
Exactly. And what I'm personally looking for in an audition is someone who has all the technical things in place, like fantastic intonation, fantastic rhythm, a fantastic sense of style. But also, they have to be able to say something musically, because even though we're all playing together as part of one incredible machine, we have to be musicians, we have to have something to say, and the people that win auditions are the ones that are musically engaging.
Right. Well, let's see how it's done. So the next excerpt we are going to listen to and talk about is the slow movement from Mozart number 39, which I imagine is a very different sort of excerpt. So why is this on audition lists?
So let me first just say that audition lists are so tricky because you might have between 10 and 20 excerpts and they're all completely different. So you play something for 30 seconds and then have to turn on a dime to play something completely different for 45 seconds. And then, so you'll always have some Mozart on an audition list. And Mozart 39 is very tricky for intonation on stringed instruments. And this one is very slow, very, very beautiful. And it can't be too slow. It can't be languid. It has to have some movement. But there's a dotted rhythm, which often can become triplety, so too lazy. But if you play it too exact, then it sounds a bit stressed out. So kind of getting that balance in the middle is very tricky.
Right. So really staying true to what's on the page, technically, literally, but staying even more authentically in line with the overall feeling of the music is really important here.
Exactly. And because it's classical, from the classical period, you don't want to play it too much like Strauss or some later composer like that. So this shows an orchestra.
Or even Grieg.
Right, or even Grieg. It shows an orchestra panel how well you cope with the classical style, which is very important in this orchestra because that is a lot of our core repertoire.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear Emma perform as a solo excerpt this Mozart 39. So on audition lists in general, there's normally quite a few excerpts that are listed. But once you get into the room to do the audition, how many do they normally ask for? Do they go from top to bottom, or are they more selective? How does it work?
So that's one of the trickiest things about auditions, is that you have this list on paper of all this repertoire that you're supposed to know inside and out. And on the day, you have no idea what they're going to ask for, or in what order, or if they're going to cut you off halfway through your audition or anything like that. So it's very difficult to plan for that.
Is it the case where they might cut you off because you're doing a really good job, or they will cut you off because you're doing a really bad job and you don't know the difference, or is it normally one or the other?
The majority of the time, if you're cut off, I've found it means that they're done listening to you, and that's usually because they're not very into your audition.
Yeah.
But sometimes they'll cut you off because you're just so fantastic that they don't need to listen to anything else.
Yeah, that's the mindset I like to take going into an audition, because you never know what's going to happen. And people behind on the panel, they're quite tired, you know. If there's a lot of candidates turning up, they want they want to be able to appoint someone very quickly, because we're always looking to find someone, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a bit funny that sometimes on the other side of the panel, you don't know what they're quite thinking. But
No. One thing I do know personally, now having been on both sides of that audition process, when I'm listening to auditions, and of course I hear a lot of candidates who are nervous and perhaps don't play their best on the day, but I guarantee you that I am sitting there desperate for you to play your best.
Yeah.
And I really want you to show everything that you can do. And I really want to hear music making and someone who really has something to say.
it's really important to remember, because we've discussed how hard it is being on the sort of performance side of the panel, but it's important to remember that at the end of the day, we're looking for a colleague who we can perform with, and we're really excited to welcome someone in.
Absolutely.
So that's a really good segue to this clip that we have of the TSO performing the slow movement from Mozart Symphony No. 39.
you.